Welcome to the Sacred Window podcast. Here, we look closely at the intersections of the postpartum window, the Ayurvedic perspective on health and healing, and the universal mother principles that are the keys to giving and receiving effective care. Hello, I'm Christine Devlin Eck. I'll be taking you through interviews with professionals who are making a profound difference in the lives of their clients, conversations with individuals brave enough to share their stories of vulnerability as a way to lift up others, and my own journey through birth, parenting, caregiving, and building a conscious business. We are here to honor the sacred windows, the profound transitions in life that give it all meaning. Welcome to the conversation.
And I will never be the same again.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sacred Window podcast. It is my pleasure today to welcome Nina Spears. She is a longtime doula. She has supported hundreds of families as both a birth doula and a postpartum doula, an educator. She is the author of a book called The Baby Chick Guide to Positive Pregnancy. She's the founder and CEO of Baby Chick. She's based in Houston. And Nina, as we mentioned a little while ago, I was just like, I think that timing is so divine. There's such, we can trust that the information we need and the connections that we get to make are just arriving at a timely point for us. And I just loved what you focus on, which is really on how we can take some of the really hard work that families are often doing to prepare and helping to support that emotional overwhelm and underpreparedness that we still feel, even when we've been working hard, even when we've been taking the classes, even when we've been reading the books. There's still such a weight of adjustment that comes into play. And as I'm speaking this, I'm like really recalling some of my own experiences too. But yeah, like really, we're going to be having a conversation about what people wish they had prioritized before birth and postpartum, kind of that hidden mental load. And I'm just really excited to do this with you. Thank you for being here.
Oh my goodness, Christine, I feel the exact same way. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just curious to know what brought you into doula care.
Oh man, yes. I did not think I would be a doula, that's for sure, getting into this. But when people are like, wait, you've been doing this for 15 years, you don't look like you started like in your 30s. So how did you get into this? And I completely stumbled upon it because when I had graduated college, I had gotten a job in sales at a company, and my sales partner, she had just announced when I joined the company, she had just announced that she was pregnant. And I kind of got to watch her prepare for this baby. She would always leave at a certain time to make sure she made it to her prenatal yoga class. And she even had her doctor and her husband on speakerphone in our office announce that it's a boy. And there was just something really special about watching her get ready for this new little life, becoming a first time mom. And I just knew, I was like, you know what? There's something about that that is calling me. So I think I'm going to, I was like 22, 23. I was like, I think I'm going to quit my job and work at this local baby boutique and figure out my life, figure out where I'm going to go next with my life because I still hadn't figured out exactly what I wanted to do when I grew up, right? And so while I was working there, I was at the front desk, and at this boutique, women are coming up to you asking like, "Oh, what do you think about this breast pump or this stroller or these sort of things?" And I'm like, "I am 23 years old. I do not have a child. I just have my basic training. Why are these women coming to me thinking I have the answers?" And I thought to myself, "Oh man, like we have wedding planners that you can call up that can really help you throughout your whole engagement, plan for your big wedding day. There's specialists in everything, like a personal trainer that can help you with your fitness goal, or a financial advisor that can help you with your help your finances and savings and your financial health. I thought, why isn't there someone that these women can call and really get support during their pregnancy so that they feel just that much more prepared and ready for motherhood? And I thought, Christine, that I was a genius. I was like, oh my goodness, I came up with this entirely new industry. And then I did a quick Google search back then in 2010 and realized, oh, actually, it's called a baby planner. And these planners help these moms. And there's actually a whole certification course to it. And so I first actually started working as a baby planner. I got certified and started working with families. And one mom invited me to her birth. And she was like, I am going to have my doula there and my husband there. And I feel like, you should come. And I was like, oh, okay, sure, I'll go. And oh my gosh, watching her, and it was in the hospital with the doctors and nurses and her doula and her husband, watching her pull up her daughter and lifting her up and putting her on her chest and going through the whole ordeal of labor and pushing all of it. I was sobbing at the end of it. I was like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And I even remember the doctor turning back, looking at me like, was this the first birth you've ever seen? And I was like, yes. And I just knew, I was like, I need to do that. I need to become a doula. And then it just kind of evolved ever since then. I then realized how important touch was. So I went to massage school and got licensed as a massage therapist, certifying in prenatal labor induction, labor massage, and postpartum massage. And then I later became an infant massage instructor. And then I realized how little women were preparing when I would visit them at their postpartum visit, how little support they had and how little preparation they had for postpartum. So I then became a certified postpartum doula through DONA, and then became a childbirth educator, newborn care educator. I just recently became a prenatal or a perinatal nutrition expert. So over the years, I don't think I know everything. All I know is that moms are amazing. And we, for some reason, feel like we have to figure this out on our own and piece it all together. And if I can make a difference, if I can change that, and if I can support some women through their journey so that they just feel more informed and supported and respected and leaving with more positive experiences, then I know that I'm doing my job. So, very long winded story, but never thought I'd be doing what I'm doing. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful testament to when we follow the opportunities and the calling that shows up for us at the right time. And to think that you have really transformed and created memories for so many families. I think, we mentioned too before we started recording about that human connection piece and
Mhm.
how it's incredible to, I think, so many of us love to study and we love to learn. And so we want to help in so many ways, but it's really at the heart of it is just showing up with kindness and love for a family who's walking this most magnificent journey in life. It's You never forget the people who were there for you during that time. And it's such an honor. Yeah, every birth that I too have been at, it's such every time it's mind-blowing in its own way. And so what a privilege for us to be in that space with families at that tender time.
So true. Oh my goodness. And you're absolutely right. I don't think anything can replace connection. That's what we were talking about. And you're right. Just holding space. We don't give it enough credit, I think. I think that we're just constantly shown that productivity is what is glamorized, and that's how you get what you want and how you do amazing things. But gosh, when you are just there for other people and holding that space and just showing up, gosh, really is powerful and beautiful. And no amount of AI or product can replace that, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, and that's something I want to dive into as well, because I think as, expecting parents who, I find especially with parents who this is their first time, we have a lot of content to weed through. We're reading, we're taking in so many things. We are making the checklists and doing the things and listening to the professionals, in our spaces. And yet we still are struggling
Mm.
after our babies arrive. And, in your experience, you see, when you see these highly productive families who are like, let's do this, we're going to do it all right, we're going to get it right. And then there's still this almost blindsidedness of like, what is happening? Like, I don't have it together, and I thought that I should, or, talk about like this experience as you've seen it in your practice, and how are you kind of thinking about that and helping families to change that experience?
That is such a wonderful question, Christine, because it totally reflects what I see all the time. Because a lot of my clients are very high powered, successful women who are used to being super productive on top of things, independent, and then all of a sudden, being pregnant and birthing this baby and kind of almost letting go of a former version of yourself and growing into this new version of yourself can be frightening and so, yeah, just scary, overwhelming. And watching them go through that, learning to let go of a version of themselves that is no longer necessary or beneficial to them and their family. I think that can be really, really hard because they put so much weight on the type of person that they were and almost like a medal of this is what I've been able to achieve, this is who I am. And while those things are amazing and I applaud them and it's truly remarkable and they can still do those things after the baby's born, but recognizing that you are so much more than that and it's okay to not always be what you consider productive. I think productivity can look like so many different things, like just resting with your baby and healing and discovering this new version of you and growing your family and all of that. So I think that that is something that a lot of, I notice that the women who struggle the most that I work with when they become parents are the ones who definitely have high powered jobs, are used to just being so productive with their days and realizing, wow, I have to change things. I need to reassess certain stuff. I need to figure out how my partner and I are going to do certain things. And sometimes they thought, "Oh, I'm going to hire a nanny and do this sort of thing." And some of them continue doing that and do great, but some of them say, "I changed my mind. I don't want those things anymore." And they didn't realize that they necessarily would feel that way. So there's so many different emotions that come in because every person is different and every story, every baby is different. So, but yeah, I think being able to just hold space like we're talking about and recognizing that one, are they feeling supported? Do they feel informed? Do they have the resources available to them? If not, providing like, hey, you can reach out to these different practitioners or look at these websites or because making sure, I think, we also live in a time where there is so much information everywhere. We have we have access to, obviously this awesome podcast and social media and AI and open AI and Google and all of these different things. And it can just be extremely overwhelming to know what is the right choice for you. And so I think finding someone that you trust who has similar values and works the way that you want to potentially practice and work as a mother and as a person, and really just asking them like what are your go-to resources that you recommend, so then that way you're not trying to inundate yourself with so much information that's out there, because I think that can become, and it has become, extremely overwhelming for my clients, at least that I see. So really walking through them with all of that and piecing together what works for each individual family, and letting them know that there's way more than one way to raise a child. It's just finding the right way for them.
I love that. I think it's one of the main projects that we have students do in our program is to create a resource and referral guide in their community
Mm-hmm.
who is who is practicing in different ways, who is offering support in areas that we may not offer support. How can we all work together as a community to really show up? And the doula is such a beautiful resource person to go to find those things, because it is overwhelming. And I think
Mm-hmm.
back to my own becoming a parent, I really had no idea about what I might need. How can you prepare for something if you don't know what you're actually going to need? And that's the case for so many people. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's so fascinating because, on that sort of thinking about families who, are holding so much and maybe have high-powered professions or, just people who are used to organizing and being prepared and um, doing the things that they want done in the way that they want to do them. It's that real change of like trading that productivity for being fully
Mm-hmm.
present what is, and learning to be or allowing ourselves to be okay with not knowing. It's like that moment of like, and I think this is another place where the care provider can work so beautifully. We can help coach them into a little bit of surrender, a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
curiosity rather than control. What do you think your baby's trying to say to you right now? What do you think that your body might need right now? And giving them the opportunity, because ultimately, and that's so funny, is this other conversation that I had this morning that I already referenced to you, but this person was like, all of us have such, like, we have autonomy, like, we know ourselves better than anybody else. And so when we, as the care
Yeah.
provider, can really help people to recognize that they are their best care provider in a way, they are the ones who know themselves the best, they are the ones who know their babies the best. And so when we can support them and really becoming present with what's needed now, not
Mm-hmm.
what they saw was needed on Instagram or what they saw was needed from the book that they read in their second trimester that they were super excited about, like all of a sudden, what we think we need is oftentimes totally different than what we actually need in the moment. And so when we're able to like help our clients just be fully present in this moment, it becomes less overwhelming in itself. Like we just need to do now. We don't need to do tomorrow. We don't need to do 3 months from now. Like we just have to do this breath and then the next breath. And that can be really challenging, huh?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Especially like we said with some of my clients who are used to, you know, their fast-paced jobs. I'm like, you can slow down. You know that you can take a breath and be in this moment and soak it in, and not have to think about, oh, but the dishes are crazy, and the laundry needs to get done and all that. Like, no, no, no. Someone else should be handling these things like right now. Let's just settle into where you're at, how you're feeling, how you're recovering. And I love what you said, being curious, like listening to what your baby is saying, listening to what your body is saying, and really figuring it out, what it is that you need.
Yeah, yeah. And I think for me, it's also helping others through that process is also such a good practice for myself because as
Mm-hmm.
a provider, we we want help in all of the ways, and some of those ways, like what is actually needed for this person in this moment. And kind of putting aside all the preconceived notions of what we think being a good care provider is. Sometimes in the moment, it's really just as simple as sitting next to someone, maybe giving them a hug, maybe just getting them some tea. It's interesting too how it's for me, this work is so reflected in how I am able to show up myself in the best of ways. I love that about it.
Oh, for sure. It's a great reminder for all of us. I think sometimes I'm like, okay, I need to doula myself in this moment. What would I tell my client in this moment? And yeah, and I feel so grateful that I am not the norm, that I got into this work before I had children.
Mm.
And to have that knowledge beforehand was just so incredible. So, for people who don't even have children yet, I really encourage you to learn about it a little bit, because if you do decide to one day have children, oh my goodness, just having that extra time to learn a couple of things rather than having this cram session of trying to learn all the things during pregnancy and then thinking that you'll have any brain cell left to be able to learn something after the baby's born. It's really like, just survival at that point of just letting your body heal, learning feeding, learning this new newborn, and learning the new you. I mean, so trying to read a book and all the other things after the baby's born, that'll come in maybe a couple months, but golly, it can be a lot. So I feel very grateful to have been able to bring that knowledge into my experience, because yeah, there have definitely been moments even in my labor I was telling myself what I should be doing, and once I had my baby, I'm like, oh, my bleeding is a little bit heavier today. I must have just overdone it yesterday. I really need to rest more. Like, having that knowledge is just so powerful. So yeah, for people who are listening, I love that you're listening to Christine's podcast, because it's just preparing you that much more for what to look out for and what to do and how to better serve your motherhood.
I love that. And it's, I think we have a lot of students who come into this before becoming a parent or people who have chosen not to become parents. And it's sometimes there's a hesitation and is this work for me if I don't have that direct experience? And I always say, a calling is a calling, and we are all, mother to someone, and we have this capacity within us to offer tender, loving, mothering care, and it's beautiful, yeah, and it's so needed.
It is. And that's so beautiful. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So when you think about, what women wish they had prioritized before birth and postpartum, we've talked a lot about, sort of this idea of, and I, I guess I'm talking about myself, the person who was like, I am going to get an A in pregnancy and I'm going to read
Mm.
everything and I'm going to do all the things. And, um, you know, what, in your experience, do women wish that they had prioritized um, before birth and before postpartum?
I think it's support more than anything.
How are you sharing your gifts and passion for caregiving with others? In a world where education and awareness around the postpartum window is lacking or missing from our modern systems, we have a profound opportunity to shift that paradigm. You may be a few simple offerings away from making a truly impactful difference in the lives of mothers and families in your community. We are here to support your journey in the ways that work best for you. Schedule a conscious care strategy session to meet one on one with me, and let's identify the right next step for you to begin a path of conscious care for new families that fits your life and your needs. Visit www.sacredwindowstudies.com/strategy-session to schedule a time that works best for you. That's www.sacredwindowstudies.com strategy dash session.
The two things that I tell people when they're like, okay, what are the two must-haves, Nina? And I go, number one is information, because information and knowledge is power, so that you can advocate for yourself and know what works best for you and you're not having to learn on the fly. So, yes, information is very important, but support. That is, I think, the biggest thing that they think they realize I did not. Maybe I read the books and I took the class and I heard the podcasts and I've been watching all the TikToks or whatever, but the support part, I feel like we are just losing connection. And if you can prepare your village before you need it, you are so ahead of the game. Knowing who to call during the daytime if you're struggling because you asked a friend, "Hey, I'm going to have a baby. You're a dear friend of mine. Is it okay if I reach out to you throughout the day if I'm struggling just to talk?" More than likely, if they're a dear friend, they'll say, "Of course." So whenever you do pick up your phone and you give them a call, they know to answer because you might be needing them in that moment. Maybe arranging a group text message that you have with some moms who have babies around the same age and say, like, let's join a group text. So if you're up in the middle of the night and spiraling about, your baby's not latching or whatever, like just send a text and maybe one of us is up. So gathering those people to be with you, maybe not physically, but still there for you, is so powerful. And then recognizing, oh, maybe I don't live near family and family can't support me. Maybe I should hire a postpartum doula. Or maybe I should get a lactation consultant like lined up and make sure that do they take my insurance? What is the pricing plan? Getting all that figured out before the baby comes is beautiful. Figuring out who your local pelvic floor therapist is, or figuring out maybe a therapist for mental health, someone who specializes in postpartum mental health or birth trauma or whatever. Finding those resources ahead of time and making this list of this village is pretty powerful. And then figuring out, are there any groups that I can go to or classes like mommy and me classes that I can go to, support groups, whatever. Knowing all of those things ahead of time can really make the journey that much better. So I think when you ask me that question, by far, women will always say, no one told me it was going to be this hard. And I'm like raising my hand. I'm like, I kind of did. I kind of said it was going to be a little hard. But
Yeah.
if you realize you're not doing it alone, because you should never have to go through motherhood alone, it was never designed to be done alone, then it's going to be so much better. So if you can create your village before you need it, I think that is the best thing that you can possibly do.
I love that. And there's something, even if we don't end up needing some of those support pieces,
Exactly. Hmm.
just knowing that there are helpers nearby you if you ever start to struggle with anything, whether it's latching or, just exhaustion or loneliness, like knowing that these people and places are there, it shifts how it feels. The not knowing and feeling like we're alone is a hard thing to navigate, and it's not necessary if we simply just create an awareness of what's there. And I can't emphasize enough the groups. Sometimes I see there's like a weekly cute stroller walking meetup in the park down the street from me. And so, once a week, all the parents and the babies, they're walking around the park and pushing the strollers and things like that, where we just need to be seen by another person. We need to come out as we are with milk stains on our shirts and whatever, just to be in company with other people who get it. It shifts the entire experience.
Oh, for sure. And anyone who is a mother, it's wonderful to be able to connect with. But if you're able to find people who have children at similar ages, that's even more powerful because they have a bit fresher memory of exactly what you are going through and maybe are in the trenches that you're in and can really relate, and you guys can support each other. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. So, yeah, trying to find, I totally agree with what you said, Christine, like trying to find those groups, but also specifically trying to find women who have children that have similar age groups as you is really, really helpful, I have found.
Yeah, and I will say, on the other side too, having facilitated a new mom circle, um, when we are able to sit in a safe space and share what's real for us in a circle of people who, are in it with you, their stories may look different, but you're invited to share. That is just ripe for friendships. And what I see, I mean, it was years ago that I did that, but I will still run it. These women are still friends, and their children are like now in middle school and beyond. And it's really, really great. And it taught me so much as a care provider, to be able to understand that there are so many different experiences. And some of them would always kind of overlap a little. But as a care provider, to be able to understand that there are so many different ways of experiencing birth and postpartum and pregnancy, it was invaluable because sometimes we get sort of attached to our own story. And as a care provider like yourself, who's worked with so many people, it really is valuable to understand lots of different viewpoints.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And I feel so fortunate and blessed that I have walked into hundreds of homes and seen, usually at first, people are on their best behavior in the beginning, showing me that everything's okay, everything's fine. Or then they'll say, oh, but the baby always does this. And of course, the baby is perfect when I'm there. And then they'll tell me that. They're like, why does he always be on his best behavior when you walk in? Um, but then after a couple of weeks, they start really letting some of those layers fall and showing more of the true side of how they're feeling and what they're going through. And that's what I really wish for every woman, is to feel safe enough to be their raw, authentic selves and talk about things that are hard or scary or just also silly, just whatever it is that they're going through, and truly feel seen and supported in that moment, because man, motherhood will rock you. And just to feel that what you're going through is maybe common or normal or maybe not normal, and where to go to next, I think can be truly, truly helpful.
Yeah, I think it's, when we go into the homes or if we're seeing people, sometimes we're a practitioner who may see people at our workplace. Um, it does take a little time to really start to understand what's going on with a person based on how they feel safe enough to share with us. But talk a little bit about that sort of hidden mental load, because I think it can express itself in so many different ways for people. And, in Ayurveda, we understand that all of us have a unique constitution, and that impacts um, how we communicate, how we express ourselves, how we go through hard times, how we manage stress. And as a care provider, when we want to show up in the best way for a client, it really does take understanding how they're holding all of these changes and that hidden
Mm.
mental load. So I just would love to hear you talk a little bit about what you see and how you're able to support people with that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That is a big thing. I think we're hearing more and more about it on social media, especially, this invisible load that mothers are carrying, and that it's heavy. But I think we're really only hearing about it after the baby is born. And I really think it starts before the baby is born. And it can even start before conception. But I truly do see it packing on its weight and getting getting extremely heavy for women once they find out they're pregnant because they're the ones that are having to carry this baby and birth this baby. And so they feel it's their responsibility to figure out, okay, I need to figure out who the best practitioner is for me. I need to figure out which hospital or birth center I want to go to. I need to go to obviously I'm carrying this baby. I have to go to all of these appointments. I need to figure out who the pediatrician is going to be. I need to figure out childcare. I need to figure out maternity leave. I need to figure out the nursery and the baby shower and all of the different items that I'm going to need for the house and baby proofing. And that list, oh my goodness, it starts during pregnancy. And when you start carrying all of these things in pregnancy with your checklists and getting all of this stuff done, and your partner is just along for the ride because they are not the ones that are pregnant, they are not the ones that are going to have to birth this human, they're already getting kind of, I think, programmed and used to being told what to do because it's your preferences. You're the one that's birthing this baby, and it should be like, yes, these should be your preferences and things since this is happening to you. But I think it's very important to start incorporating our partners from the very beginning. And that's actually a big part of my book. In my book, each week, I write down partner tips for what partners should be doing each week of the pregnancy. Not just things that moms should be thinking about. Yes, I have those too, but I also have things that partners should be doing throughout their pregnancy because I feel that if we start delegating and lightening our load and having them come be a part of the whole experience, once you birth this little human, they are much more used to and likely to step in and say, okay, these were all the things that I did and supported you throughout pregnancy. Where's my, what am I, so I want to know what I can do now to continue this on and support you throughout postpartum and becoming parents together. And so that's a huge thing that I believe in is it's not just coaching this woman and helping her believe in her body and her preferences and her voice and all of these things, but also bringing her partner into it as well. Because when she has someone who is walking this road with her throughout the whole entire journey, oh my gosh, it's not so lonely. It's not so scary, and you feel like you have someone that you're doing this with. You're doing this together, and they're not going anywhere. And man, that can also be so powerful for your relationship because I'm sure everyone knows relationships can really change after you have a baby. And I think they can change for the better and be stronger if we start incorporating our partners from the very beginning. So, regarding the invisible load, yes, it's a lot, but you do not have to carry that by yourself. We need to start making sure that both you and your partner figure out what are your strengths. You can handle these responsibilities. These are my strengths. I'm going to handle these responsibilities. And we're going to do this together as a team. So, for example, if you're like, well, what could that look like, Nina? That could look like the partner, you know what? All of these car seats are so overwhelming. Can you do research on the three best car seats out there and let me know what those are? And then we can decide together. Or maybe you realize that she is just so tight and tense. Maybe you find a couple of massage therapists and do your research, and then find one that you think she would love and book an appointment for her, or find a chiropractor and book that appointment for her. Maybe it's planning the baby moon, like figuring out, okay, I'm going to do some research on some different locations, and then you decide the three that you want to choose, that like the one that you think is best for us. Just taking off that mental load by doing several of these things can mean so much because she already has a whole laundry list of other things that need to get done. Again, I incorporate this throughout my book because I just feel like that invisible load is so heavy. And imagine carrying that and then birthing a baby and then recovering and still feeling like you have to be the manager of this whole household and telling people what they need to do and how they best serve you. Why don't they take that ownership and responsibility to just step in and be an equal partner and start doing things without having to be told and managed on how to take care of this baby and this woman. So, yeah, I think that there's a lot of room to grow and to do better. But I think that women are recognizing that things can be different and that they don't have to be the ones that are carrying all of it on their own for their whole family, because it really should never be that way. And because we don't live in villages anymore, creating your own special village, but also making sure that those villagers that you've assigned and your partner is a big one, like letting them know the role that would be most beneficial for your family and your village is really powerful.
It's so brilliant and it's so simple. And I love how you gave those examples because I notice in myself and I would imagine that other people might experience this too, that, you know, it makes us feel safe when we're like, or we maybe cling to like doing it ourselves because,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know why we do that, but
I think we do
it's
that
good
because we know
practice.
that it's going to get done the way we want it done. It's going to
Yeah,
happen the way we want it and the way we want it done. And while that's helpful, is in a certain sense. Is it though? At the end of the day, like, aren't you exhausted? And that's kind of like as a postpartum doula, I will see some moms stepping in and saying, "Oh, but he's changing the diaper wrong and he's doing this wrong and he's doing that wrong." And I go, "But guess what? He's learning. And if you never give him the opportunity to learn and practice, he's never going to get better and he's never going to build that bond that you want him to build and that confidence to parent without you." So if you give him some of these tasks in the beginning and say like, "Oh my goodness, thank you so much for researching different lactation consultants. This one sounds lovely. Could you call her and make sure that she accepts our insurance and then let her know that maybe we'll reach out if we need the support?" Like, how lovely is that you didn't have to do all of that? It may not have gotten done the exact same way you would have done it, but it's just one less thing for you to carry.
it's so true. It helps us to recognize what it feels like to be cared for. When
Yes.
whether it's, bringing in a postpartum doula or your mother comes to stay or your friend is doing this, like they're not going to do things exactly like you do it, but they're there to help. And we have to be able to take some help. We have to be able to rely on other people to help us. That's how it works. That's how a healthy uh, postpartum window and the opportunity to deepen our relationships with others is this reciprocal ability to give care, to receive care. And I just love that as a focus of what you are bringing out there because it doesn't have to be hard. It can be simple, and the impact of it is so much bigger than we might imagine.
Oh gosh, so much bigger. Because when you do that, you think, "Oh, I'm making this easy for myself," but you're giving your partner confidence in becoming the parent that they want to be and the partner that they want to be. So just think about it as, not only are you giving yourself a little break from doing a little less research and homework, but they're learning how to best take care of you. And what a beautiful gift that is. And the more confident they feel that they're doing a good job in that, probably the more often they'll do it. So, if you
Yeah.
give them the opportunities to learn how to change that diaper properly, to give their babies a bath, to go and play outside, or to whatever it is, the more opportunities where you're not criticizing how they're doing it, they're figuring it out on their own. Maybe you give them, an article or two to like read or a YouTube video to watch to learn a little bit about it. But other than that, like they're figuring things out on their own too, and giving them that opportunity, I think is really special. And not only for them, but for you too.
It's so beautiful. Well, Nina, I have to get your book now because what I have heard so far is just so beautiful and accessible and important. And so I want to thank you for coming on to this podcast and sharing about the work that you've done and your experiences and your story. And I want to give you the opportunity to, you know, what is something that you want to leave our audience with? What is a closing message that feels really important to you in this moment to share?
Oh, goodness. I think we've talked about a lot of wonderful, powerful things. I think that, and this goes so well with everything that you teach, Christine. I think that, yes, preparing for birth is so important. I give this analogy. It's like, people say, "Oh gosh, Nina, why do I make this whole birth plan and then nothing goes according to plan?" And I say, "Well, that's not the whole purpose of it. The purpose is so much bigger than that, because think of birth as like this mountain. And if you're climbing this mountain and you realize, okay, I'm going to train for it, I'm going to get a guide, I'm going to have this map, I'm going to get all the gear, and I'm going to conquer climbing this mountain. And then all of a sudden, a huge storm comes. Wouldn't you be so glad that you didn't just show up with flip-flops and like hope?" And that goes with birth and postpartum and anything in life, really, anything big. That's a mountain, in your life. So the more that you can get that guide, have a map, have the gear, and just feel knowledgeable, you've studied the courses, you're gonna feel so much more confident and capable and prepared for this big journey. And so I recommend that, even if you're like, "Oh, but things might not go according to plan, or I might not even use that." Well, that's okay. That's great. But if they do happen to, turn sideways, you'll have some knowledge, you'll have some support. You'll feel so much better knowing that you're not walking through this blind and alone. Because again, it was never meant to be done that way. So yeah, that's why I wrote my book, so that people can have that support throughout their pregnancy, week by week. That's why I do the services that I offer and my coaching platform. And I think that the more that we can just support each other, no matter what that looks like, even if it looks different from my own, that's okay. This is your experience, and we're here to honor that. And you can do this, but you shouldn't have to do it on your own.
Mm. Thank you so much, Nina. I really appreciate you and your work and everything you've brought to this conversation and all the things that you're bringing to the families in your community and your own family. Thank you for being here.
Oh, I could say the same thing to you, Christine. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here.
Shanti, Shanti.
The Center for Sacred Window Studies has been training postpartum care providers, professionals who work with new families, and individuals passionate about postpartum care since 2018. We regularly host live free events alongside our online and in-person training and certification programs. Hop on our newsletter list to get direct access to all of our events and community support gatherings. Our mission is not only in training conscious postpartum care providers, but in fostering a robust, informed, and thriving community of postpartum professionals. Once you step inside, you're family forever. Visit www.sacredwindowstudies.com to add your email to our newsletter list. You can support our work by subscribing to the Sacred Window podcast and sharing with someone you know who would love it. Thanks for being here and participating in the culture-wide shift that recognizes the need for and the importance of conscious postpartum care.